Hello, welcome to episode 49 of the Late Challenge podcast. This week we're asking who cares about the FA Cup, and with it being absolutely freezing and snow falling in London with some weather warnings about snow on the way, we're going to have a chat about this time of year and whether us middle-aged people like it or not. We could do that first, couldn't we? I wasn't going to wear this hoodie. I've got like 3 layers on because it's freezing in here. And he's leaving his coat on.
Yeah, there's been a power cut. There's no fucking heating on.
I know it was freezing last week though when there was power. The power's back now.
Man, he's put it on about 2 seconds ago.
No tea for Robbo, which is, I can't even believe we've started. So, you're sorting that out, Dylan, yeah?
I'll make it up, lad.
He's got to get the proper power on for the tea. This is only temporary power.
This is just temporary power. Like in the Blitz. This is what it was like in the war. Right, let's just start talking about the FA Cup. It's been FA Cup third round weekend.
Yeah.
Who's asked? Anyone? And this is the big thing. So, do you like that I wrote this on the agenda? We went into detail about the Arsenal versus Liverpool game on our live at 5.
Which we haven't done yet.
Because we do that later. But by the time you watch this, go back and watch that on our YouTube channel under the live section if you can't find it, or listen to it on our podcast. We go big chat about that. But I want to have a chat about the FA Cup in the third round in general. Just see what we both think about it, because I remember growing up and it was a big deal. Like third round weekend was a big deal, wasn't it? After Christmas, or like the draw, who got who, like potential like giant killings and all that. And genuinely this weekend, when I was thinking about what to talk about today, I was like, oh, we'll talk about the FA Cup because that was on. It just completely passed me by. Like I wasn't asked. I guess I looked at a couple of little fixtures to see what was on telly and stuff, but didn't give a shit until our game, which was Sunday afternoon. But what were you like with it?
Well, I moved out, so it was quite difficult for me to follow it in the way I normally would. I watched Palace and Everton on Thursday night. Crap.
Was it?
Yeah, terrible
but
game.
That passed me by that start, because they don't usually have a Thursday night game
5
for the FA
days.
Cup, do they?
They've stretched the third round across 5 days. So there's a game tonight as well, obviously, Wigan and Man United. And yeah, it started on Thursday. All of that for a start off feels wrong. I'm a traditionalist, and I can remember how it was and how big it was, and we've talked about that before, haven't we, many a times? And I think stretching across 5 days was unnecessary. Trying to just have footy on the telly every night is unnecessary. It's too much. It devalues it. It just means it's quite a throwaway thing, like have it on. But, I'm sure there are people who absolutely lap up absolutely everything, but I would imagine there are a lot of people also who love football but just think sometimes this is just too much. And even like, I get that it's like terrestrial tellies go to show the footy when the FA Cup comes along, which is good, because there's like an assumption that everyone's got access to Sky, TNT and the rest, and and the reality is they haven't. There is a thing called digital poverty, and there are people who haven't even got the internet, and all of that's rarely talked about. So when something's literally free to air and available on ITV or BBC One, then good. But I mean, even that Palace Everton game was hidden away, if you like, on ITV4.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, and I knew it was on and wanted to watch it, so went looking for it.
So was it split over BBC and ITV? It wasn't just all BBC, no?
No, it's ITV as well. It's the game tonight, it's ITV, isn't it?
Okay.
Or as we speak tonight. So when people watch this, they'll already know whether the Latics have knocked out Manchester United. Come on.
But it's funny, isn't it? Because even now I was thinking about that, and obviously because of the time, like Vortex we recording, everyone will know by the time they watch this. But if I flicked through a few of the fixtures and results over the weekend, and I was like, I don't think that, unless I've missed anything, I don't think there were any big shocks.
It was a shock, wasn't it?
But that was another topic I wanted to talk about, actually, which I didn't put on here, which is there a bit of snobbery from us now in the Premier League that I don't even know. When you say Maidstone, when I'm flicking through the fixtures, if Maidstone beat someone, I'd be like, I don't know what league any of them are in, so I don't know whether it's an upset or not. Do you know what I mean?
Snob, then.
But
there's a problem with that in general. I mean, I as I was like putting my bed together, which was a fantastic task, part of the move. I had the phone in on 5 Live, and it was doing me head in, because it was like savage, like waxing lyrical about how they should change the third round and do away with this and change that and do this. And it's like, fuck off, mate. Like, everything isn't about the Premier League. Everything isn't about the big boys. And to be fair, he was saying, obviously he's involved in Maxfield Town, and he was going on about this sort of guaranteed way that, that you get a payout if you're the smaller club. I just think that's wrong as well. Like, just let it be drawn in the way it's always be drawn. And like, stop trying, like, who doesn't want replays? Premier League clubs. Why? Because they say there's too much football. Klopp was saying it again himself over the weekend. And yet there is too much football. But you can still value the FA Cup. Or you can choose to devalue it, which is what's going on. Man United pulled out of it. You can't say Liverpool haven't done it themselves when they fielded the kids against Shrewsbury Town because Klopp was fuming that we didn't get our winter break because it had gone to a replay, etc., etc., etc. Look, the FA Cup to me is like still a brilliant competition, but obviously being devalued. It's the oldest knockout competition. Liverpool have obviously won it 7 times, I think it is. Apologies if I've got something factual wrong. Fucking hell, I'm so bored of them people. But like, and they've been fantastic occasions, and I've been lucky enough to be at quite a few of them. And also, I always come at it from being someone who watches non-league footy as well. And like, I can remember Knowsley United playing Stafford Rangers and knocking them out and getting to like the first round proper, being on the telly, and the game being switched to Goodison Park because Alt Park, which no longer exists, was deemed, no good for they were playing Carlisle United. So they moved it to Goodison Park, got about 5,000 there, including me. The only time I've been to Goodison and supported the home side. And got beat but it was boss, do you know what I mean? And I remember there being like a little feature about Knowsley United on the telly, and like that, as I've said before, that's like a club that I could see out of my bedroom window, and it was like, here they are on national telly. And all that side of it still happens, but this goes back to other societal changes. Like, once upon a time we only had terrestrial telly, and so we were all pretty much watching the same thing. But because we got satellite and because we got this huge choice now of things, like people are all watching different things, and like, the water cooler conversations are very different now, Andy, because it's like, have you seen anything decent lately? And then you might make a note of some series that someone's watched, but likelihood is you've all been watching completely different things. Once upon a time we'd all watch the third round, and we'd all watch Match of the Day, and we all watch Footy Focus and whatever. That's gone. That's changed, and I don't know how you roll back on it. You probably don't. You probably just have to cop for the fact that it's changed. Is that better? Well, it's probably better that, you've got more choice, because I can remember back in the day there was plenty of conversation about like the output being crap on some of those channels. So now you've got this huge choice, almost too much choice. But look, I still love it because of the era I grew up in. And I'm sure like, there are maybe younger fans, some of them, who'll say, I'm not really bothered. It's not the Champions League and it's not this, that and the other. I've seen a clip of a kid on the internet like yesterday, some Arsenal fan saying like, I'm not bothered. Only young. I want the Champions League. It was a proper, I want the Champions League. Shut up, you little shit. When Arsenal, because Arsenal have got a huge pedigree in the competition, haven't they? You know what I mean? Like, it's something they've traditionally took seriously. They did at the weekend. And look, there are problems, and I think we touched on this when we've talked about it before. Like, you get more for like moving up a couple of places in the Premier League than you do winning the FA Cup. There's no place in Europe or anything attached to it, which is being proposed elsewhere and things like that. I still love it, mate. I think there's a lot of footy that can become mundane and boring. You're playing the same sides and it's the same type of game and it's the same managers going head to head. And I like there being something a little bit different, where you served up something a little bit different. You see different sides, you see different clubs, you hear different managers talking in front of a microphone. Sometimes some of them are characters and all the rest of it. I think the romance has been killed a little bit, but I wouldn't say it's completely gone. That's my long-winded take on it there.
No, I think you said there's some interesting stuff you said in there that I hadn't thought about, and even going back to, and this is, both our age and demographic and all that we often mention, but I think there's a big bit in what you said about choice and the fact that when we were growing up, there were only a few games you could watch.
Yeah.
So you would all watch them and then you would talk about them, whether they were good, bad or indifferent. Do you know what I mean? It was just, that's what you all watched. So like FA Cup on a Saturday or whenever it was on back then, again, I'll probably get pulled up for that, but I can't remember. But it like, you know, whatever day it was, you'd get to watch the match. You just there would be millions watching it and you'd sit down and watch it. And I think even if you think about this week's games, I actually tried to get the viewing figures to have a look and I couldn't find them anyway. I don't know whether they do them this quickly, but I look back over previous years and, you know, terrestrial TV games in the third, fourth round of the FA Cup are still getting upwards of 9 million viewers. And when you compare that to the best Sky viewing figures, it still trounces that completely.
Because that's the access thing.
It's the access thing, absolutely that.
Because they did that about the darts the other week, didn't they? They were saying like how, you know, record number watches like Luke Littler or whatever. And then, you know, you had people quite rightly saying, yeah, that's the Sky era though, isn't it? Like when big darts finals were on terrestrial telly a long time back, they got huge audiences. Yeah,
but you know what was interesting about that? I saw Dan Walker, who I really like, tweet saying about the final. Did you see it?
Yeah.
Saying like, it should be on terrestrial TV. And someone, I don't even know what he replied to him saying, no, they weren't interested, mate.
Sport, yeah.
They weren't. True. There was no one in the picture when Sky came in to revive this sport, which they basically didn't they?
Yeah.
Like Sky came in and were like, this could still be good. We can make something of it. It was dying.
Yeah.
And so you can't come along now as terrestrial TV saying, oh, we'll have it back now that it's fucking popular again. Yeah. And you're like, no, it's been revived by them. And so there's the other side of the argument,
there's
isn't
something
there?
wrong in the model, isn't there? Like, you know, and to me, like, you know, seems to be like a bit of an ostrich way of looking at it from the TV companies, because there's a problem with what they're charging for those channels. Because if that wasn't a problem, the IPTV stuff and you know the sticks and all that kind of stuff that goes on where you can watch whatever you want by paying various people, whatever, that's fucking huge, and there's millions of people doing that. And it's like, well, then there's something wrong with your model then, isn't there? And why don't you look at it? Do you know what I mean? But they don't. It's just sort of like, oh, we'll just bury our head in the stand and keep doing it.
Well, it's something I don't really get. I've said this for ages, and I think that terrestrial TV almost proves this point. And whenever I make a point like this, I can always picture, like, you know, the owner of Sky saying to me, how many millions have you made out of fucking broadcasting in a TV station? You're like, yeah, fair point. I'm just one of those dickheads sitting at home saying, but like commenting on how they could make it better.
That, you know, why are we paying a TV license then?
Yeah, but my whole thing about like Sky TV and TNT and Discovery is, it's like Netflix. You've got a product that you can sell as many times as you want and just make as much money as you can. It doesn't get devalued by selling it for less. So you're better off having 1 million people paying you £5 a month than, quick maths, than 100,000 people paying 20 quid a month. Do you know what I mean?
Man's not hot.
Yeah. And I've never really got this, that like, if I had Sky, like if Netflix was suddenly, I think this all the time with YouTube, right? Because we're in that world now. To get it, and look, everyone sees this. You can get a premium YouTube account, but it's like 20 quid a month. If a YouTube premium account was a £5, which is why hardly anyone has one.
What's the benefit? Just no ads?
No ads, yeah. But that's my point. Whereas Netflix, when Netflix first came out, it was a £5 a month, wasn't it? So they priced it at a point that made you go, might as well. Because for a £5 a month, you might as well. I mean, fucking hell, we're doing it with our own fucking thing here. If we made this 20 quid a month, you know for a fucking fact, you're ruling out most people. Because psychologically, you'll just go, it's not worth 20 quid a month. But if you keep the price low, you'll get more people want to get involved because it's at that price. Like, I might as well. That's the idea. I don't understand why Sky doesn't do that and just give everybody access to it, but for a much cheaper price where pretty much everyone can afford it. Yeah, and obviously, it doesn't get past the digital poverty thing, but that's a wider issue.
But for people who do want to watch it and have got some income and some, you know, and access to the internet, you know, like people are watching on that weird Ronaldo 7 site or whatever, and I think that one's being closed down now. But you know what I mean? Like there's been streams, there's been ways to watch the stuff for a long time. And like, it appears to me, on the outside looking in, that it's like whack-a-mole. They can't stop it. It keeps happening.
But I think how much money they must spend on trying to stop it. Whereas people
because every year, if you look, right, every year, it's normally about this time of year, actually, you see the same headlines and the same like scare stories about, oh, we're having a crackdown and police are coming for you and all this. And it's like, are they? Yeah.
So about the conversation we had in the Christmas.
Someone's going to knock on like a normal lad's door and go, all right, mate, believe you're watching Premier League footy in there. Am I? Yeah, prove it. You know what I mean? Oh, we got this on. They're just not. I don't believe they're going to target individuals watching the footy. They might target the people who were selling the service. But, and it was the same with the pubs, wasn't it? Like, again, plenty of people in this city ended up getting done for it. But those pubs were fucking shocker. You know what I mean? And like, you could tell why they chanced their arm with it for so long. So again, it feels like the model's not right.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to force people to pay 60 quid or whatever it might be. And it's not working. People are finding ways around it because they think that's too much. So surely think again.
Well,
do you know what I mean?
That's what I was talking over you to say. Before, I can't remember. I might mention this on a Patreon show. We had a conversation about it in a Christmas party. To tell you this, or maybe talked off air. And it was hilarious. Like in the room, like most people were just people who'd be like, "Yeah, sound." And there was like one fella sitting there who you could tell was like, "Aye,
the proper powers
kettles on." For people listening, the power's just come back on in the studio. There was a fella in there who was clearly not interested in dodgy broadcasts of, copyrighted material.
Ways to watch,
And you could tell he had one of those faces. I'm like, is this legal, what you're all talking about here? And you're like, don't worry about it. But someone mentioned how much someone in the room, it was a cross-section of society, and someone in the room paid for the full package of Sky. And I was like, they were like paying 180 quid a month or something.
Wow.
And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? They were like, no, that's like to have everything with the entertainment and all that. Broadband phone. And you're like, that is absolutely wild in this day and age that it's that much. And it's mad that anyone was paying it when the alternatives are there. But that's something I've always thought, like the terrestrial TV shows you how many you'd get. And I've often thought this, even as a business model, if I was Sky, every now and then I'd just put a big game out for free.
For free, yeah, that makes sense as well. Like they've done that a couple of times. I don't think it's particularly, doesn't feel like it was a business thing. Feels more like it was like a cultural thing, like what Dan Walker was talking about. But like the Champions League's being free to air on YouTube and stuff.
Yeah, BT did that, didn't he? Yeah.
And like, I agree with you. I feel like they should do that every now and again because there is definitely an audience out there that just isn't bothering. So, there's an audience that is going, I'm not getting involved with that. I can't afford that. But you know what? If it's on the normal telly and I can just literally flick over and it's there, I'll give that a go. And like, I bet you do it all like, patting each other on the back about the Arsenal-Liverpool game at the weekend because it was a cracker. Do you know what I mean? So like loads of like, loads of little tales within it almost. Do you know what I mean? So it was like that was a good one to put on. Because sometimes them all Premier League games can actually be a bit shit, and like and I always I've seen some arguments about this over the weekend online about like, yeah, but if you put Minnow v Giant on sometimes you just get like City Huddersfield or whatever, they just tonk them and it's boring. And so there's that balance of like, trying to predict a banana skin one or just put an all Premier League one on, which is what seems to happen more and more these days with the picks. Like, but yeah, I mean, look, to go back to like the original question, I still have like really fond memories of like stuff doesn't even involve Liverpool. You know what I mean? Like I remember I've been trying to desperately get this right. I think it was Woking against West Brom, and it was Tim Bazaglo scored a hat-trick and they won 4-2. Now that was boss. Do you know what I mean? Because there was a fella that you'd never heard of playing semi-pro and he's coming and had the kecks off. And and there was Wrexham and Man U, wasn't there, going back further?
Yeah.
Obviously like Ronnie Radford and all that kind of gear as well. And I still love all that. And look, you know, it's easy to do that. That's in the past and it's changed, and this and the modern day is nothing like that now. Well, what about Marine? And like, okay, they ended up getting tonked by Spurs or whatever. But I go to the odd Marine game and likely will now go to more. I'm so made up by this, by the way. So I think you might be talking on the other show about me moving gaff. So spoiler. But I can see the floodlights from Marine.
Oh, nice.
And I'm like, get in.
Yeah.
Because I talked the other week, didn't I, about like
being able to see Knowsley.
Being able to see Knowsley United. And where I've just moved to, I can now see the floodlights at Marine. And like I was pissing around, moving stuff around, trying to open boxes, put beds together, whatever. And I looked out and I was like, is that Marine? Yeah. And then I'm looking on them and I'm like, oh, it is. And then so I was like, when's the next home game? And they're playing at home in the winter break. So I'm going to go.
Oh, nice.
Because I can walk to it and I'm made up. But what I was going to say was, it's been transformational for them. Thank you very much. The brew, yes. All is well in the world. Yeah, it's been transformational for them, like compared to what it was. Like, you know, the bogs used to not be the best, and like, you know, just generally, like everything needed a bit of a lick of paint and a bit of a bringing into, you know, the modern day, if you like. And the dough they must have got off that Tottenham game and the media coverage, and there was all that. It was COVID, wasn't it? But they sold those virtual tickets, and loads of Spurs fans were sound, and thousands of them bought them.
Yeah, nice.
And I think loads of them are sort of like adopted Marine as a bit of a second club or whatever.
That's nice.
But yeah, you go now and like they've got a 3G pitch and they've got a nice bar, and you know the facilities are better, and that's
like, all off the back of that.
That's all off the back of that. And I remember as well, you know, when Sean Reid was in charge of Warrington Town, they drew a league club, and my memories failed me as to who it was, but they made a good chunk of dough, and I spoke to him. I had a bevy, not you know, I didn't have a bevy with him. I was having a bevy and I spoke to him, is a better way to, you know, I wasn't going on the aisle with Sean.
Yeah.
And I asked him about it, like, and he was like, oh yeah, and like, you know, he's explaining some of the numbers, like, and again, that level, it's transformational to pull a league club and be on the telly. So for me, that's a good thing. It's a nice thing, and like, you know, a thing to be celebrated. And I don't agree with the scrap the replays thing.
I was just going to ask you that.
I don't think that's where it should change. Like, I liked in the League Cup, they're just going straight to pens, aren't they? There's no extra time. I think that's a good idea. Do you know what I mean? But do that after the replay though, because I still just like this. I don't think we've got to change absolutely fucking everything. Do you know what I mean? One of my mates was telling me over the weekend, I think, this is where it's going to be you. Do you know what I mean? Because my memory's so bad.
Yeah.
He was saying about like VAR, and apparently like there's an old clip where they're talking about goal line technology, and it's like Schmeichel and stuff, and they're, you know, just pundits in a studio, and they're saying, it's from years ago obviously, and they're saying, oh, I don't like this though. And they're like, why? Because it's like factual though, isn't it? Goal line technology. If it's over the line, then it should be a goal. Because you know, I think it was referencing like that mad Roy Carroll one when he was in goal for United. And, and like it didn't get given. It was miles over. And there was some punditry around there, I think it involves Schmeichel, where they were like, just don't like where that goes though. Like, where'd you end? Like, you want absolute perfection. You want every decision to be decided by technology. You know, it's gonna change the game. And obviously when you watch them back now, and we are where we are now, you're
prophetic.
Like, okay, now. Yeah.
But that's interesting in itself, isn't it? That there was no VAR in the whole thing. There
was VAR if you were in a Premier League ground.
Oh, okay. But even that's mad, isn't it?
Even that's mad, because you're playing in the same competition. So in some of the competition, you have it, and some of it you don't. But I like that about, like, I'm proper banging. I think everyone should go to Marine v Stafford Rangers next week. I'll see you there. Honestly, everyone I've been bumping into, I'm like, I'm going, and you're up for it. I mean, it's 10 minutes walk for me, like, but I can't wait now. And like, I love going to those games because there obviously is no VAR. And like, you know, they just, and like, you get the old school, like, fucking hell, ref and all that. But even that's boss.
Yeah.
And like, it doesn't seem to, I know like there's the big respect campaigns, and there's been really extreme incidents at grassroots and all that is obviously out of order. But there's there's an in-between, surely, isn't there? There's a sweet spot where the referee, like I've seen at Marine as an example, where the referees or the line will get a bit of shit and they're smirking about it. Do you know what I mean? They're accepting because it's not over the line.
But isn't that the point? Isn't the point that traditionally the referee was part of it?
Yeah.
Like I always remember my dad saying to me, like when I was a kid watching it, like do the ball had hit the ref, and my dad he always had certain lines he'd say. He'd be like, the ref's part of the field of play. Like that's just the way it is. If it's the ref and goes in, it's a goal. But they've changed that now, haven't they? Like if the ball hits the ref, they stop the game and all that. And I wonder, like that's a weird little point, but it does feel a bit like that the ref used to be part of it. And now the ref is being, Postecoglou talks a bit about this, like the ref on the pitch is being just diminished all the time. So you're asking people to respect this person more, whilst at the same time the game is diminishing their value. So it's like, that doesn't really work, does it? You give him, if you want to get him to have more respect or her to have more respect, then make them the fucking all powerful being on the pitch. And that was a sort of like, there was that air of referees historically was they could just, especially in sort of non-league and grassroots, the ref would tell you to fuck off.
Yeah, 100%.
If you gave the ref shit, the ref would go, who the fuck are you? Fuck off.
Yeah, I know. And look, you know, there is levels of amateur footy, junior footy and all that, like I say, where there have been incidences that, you know, 100% cross the line and you can't have that, and I get that. But yeah, I feel like there is a sweet spot and I feel like we're not at it at the top level, and it's nice. It is one of the nicer things of going down the levels and seeing like an older school version of footy. I feel like they get away with more there as well. I feel like, you know, there's some boss old school tackles and things like that going in.
But I mean, we will get into, we will have got onto it in the main footy show. But sort of I quite liked about the cup game was it felt like both managers went into the game going, we don't want to replay.
Yeah, they didn't. Yeah.
And it was like the refed it like an old-fashioned cup game with no... That's why I wondered whether there was VAR. With no VAR, where it's like, we're going to have a winner today, boys. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like a no-holds-barred wrestling match or something. And there was periods in the game where there was just tackle after tackle flying in. And you could hear both sets of fans being like, fucking hell.
Still didn't manage consistency across the
course
of the game, did he?
But this is one of my things, mate. I think we just let everyone be happier if we just let go of this drive for consistency even. Forget it.
But in one game, I get
know.
if it's game to game and it's another referee and it's another set. But like, you know, if you book one fella for dissent because he's fucking like turned round and done that, oh fuck off, and then another fella like does exactly the same thing later on, you don't book him. You look at it, and that's going to annoy everyone, including me.
But that's where we're in the realms of it being ridiculous, aren't we? Like with stuff like that, and that's where, like in general life, I'm just like, let go of it. The other thing I wanted to mention, which goes back to a point we were making before, so it's not fluid, but it's worth saying, is I still find it's really weird, and I think this has devalued it, and I just don't really get it. Like how many teams, top flight teams, rest players for the cup third round. Do you know, don't get me wrong, I understand why Liverpool and City and Chelsea and United, well, not Chelsea anymore, but teams that are in and about the Champions League, they've got basically what you said before about money being a big factor, and actually that's devalued it because financially they're better off finishing fourth in the Premier League than winning the FA Cup. So you're going to prioritise your next league game, whatever. I can't comprehend why every team below the top six in the Premiership isn't starting the season going, our main aim, or let's not say every team, right? Because you've got a chunk of teams whose main aim is to avoid relegation. Then you've got a chunk of teams whose main aim is the top four. But then there's probably 10 teams in the middle, maybe a bit fewer than that, a few fewer than that, who are not going to get relegated realistically and are not going to get in the top four realistically. If I was the owner or manager of any of those teams, I'd start every season going, we've got 2 competitions we can win. And our aim this year is to win one of those competitions.
I
and
think
we're going to go all out.
Though, actually, you know, I think it's been like a conversation for years and years to say, oh, the rest of them and they're rotating and all that, and they're not taking the competition seriously. I actually think in more recent years, it's gone back a bit the other way in that. And it could be, you know, because of the City dominance and that kind of stuff. Like, well, you know, there's no chance of a crack at the league, so like, let's take the FA Cup a bit more seriously. Because among the, you know, there's a debate every year about is how important is it? Are people taking it seriously? Is it being devalued? Is it broken? Can we fix it? All of that is like, you know, perennial, isn't it? And it's like, but actually, look who wins it. Like, you know,
Usually,
Wigan won it that year, which was great. But, you know, 9 times out of 10, it's actually normally a top side. So it's like, we keep saying the devalued thing and no one cares thing. And then it's actually a big side that's normally getting their hands on it. So it can't be that devalued then, can it? And also, you know, look, you know, the big sides now as well, the squads are so big that... And you know, and the depth is so good, if you like, that even when they're supposedly rotating, it's still a good side on the pitch, isn't it? I mean, you know,
Liverpool, we saw that, didn't we?
Yeah, well, Liverpool
we had like a team out, didn't we, basically?
But we're still great, or still good enough. So yeah, I don't think it's quite dead. I still do think they could do more with it, though. You know, they could up the prize maybe. They could maybe think about some kind of European place being associated to it to give it that little bit more prestige. They could just stop fucking around with the times of it as well. And you know, I've got to say here as well, again, like the TV companies and their lack of giving a shit of people who actually go to the match is just terrible. Like, you know, if you're an Evertonian and you're going to Palace for an evening kickoff on a Thursday night, well, you're going to have to take the afternoon off work then, aren't you, likely? And like that, you know, just have a think. Just like, why can't, you know, like tonight's game as we speak is Man United and Wigan, isn't it? Or Wigan and Man United, can't remember. I think it's
at Wigan, yeah.
It's at Wigan, isn't it? So sound that, you know, I think broadly speaking, most people look at that and say, well, that's all right, because the clubs are close to each other.
Yeah.
And so, like, you'll inconvenience some, obviously, you know, your Cockney Reds and that. But, you know, by and large, you look at that, you take everything into consideration and say, well, that's relatively fair, that's all right. But if you're doing, like, I don't know, from Plymouth and, you know, Newcastle or something, like, clearly that's logistically a problem in a country where the fucking transport's shite compared to elsewhere. So just how about we just stop doing that? Do you know what I mean? How about, like, there's more of a wider consideration of, like, because you know, the sights and the sounds of the FA Cup, even when you watch it on the telly, is the fans, isn't it? And the songs and all the rest of it. And we saw it in COVID, it's crap without it. So bit more respect for the fans, maybe.
It's funny though, isn't it, that even off the back of COVID, like, we literally got to see what it was like without the fans.
Shit.
And off the back of that, I thought, oh, this is a moment for the fans to go, so. And it's just gone back. It's actually got worse since then, hasn't it? They're taking the piss more.
They're definitely starting to push it, I think, on that. And like, you know, I'm part of some fan groups and I see other fan groups, and you can see that they're going, hang on. You know, all of a sudden we've got a fixture on Christmas Eve. You know, and the tally companies are definitely doing that again. You know what I mean? Seeing how far they can push it.
Yeah, and look, we support a football club that does stand up against these things, and we've seen it this season. And we get criticised for this stuff, but it amazes me, actually, in the wider world as well, how when there is an opportunity to get behind someone saying we're standing up against this, everyone else doesn't go, yeah, us as well.
I know.
And I think it's about time everyone did more of what we've done as a fan base in the past and gone, no more.
Yeah.
And it proved it works as well, by the way.
Well, yeah, I mean, you wouldn't have 30 quid away tickets if it wasn't for fans coming together and saying, get fucked with this now.
Yeah.
And, like, you know, you see it in Germany all the time, like that their organised protests at footy are like second to none. And so, and it's got to be done, because there'll always be people with pound signs in their eyes who don't give a fuck about anything else. And so, you know, you've got to remind them that, you know, like, we're big parts in this game. Yeah, of course, it's the lads kicking the ball and that's why they paid all the money. But it's shit without the fans. It's absolutely crap without the fans. Like, I think there's something, I think if you're a footy fan and you truly love the game, there's something just soothing about having the game on the telly or having the game on the radio when you're doing things. There's just, you know, that noise of the crowd.
Yeah.
It's just nice, isn't it? I find it like it brings my anxiety down.
Yeah,
do you know
but you know what's that funny about that? I've noticed since moving in with Siobhan that, like, I am the same. Like, if I'm doing something and I've got nothing that I want to watch or listen to, I'll just put a game on in the background because I like the sound of it.
Yeah.
I like it. It is comforting to me. It has the complete opposite effect on if she walks into the room and the footy's on, she's like, it increases her anxiety because her memories, like her association with footy over the years is like knobhead boyfriends or a dad ignoring or whatever. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's mad that like that does tie into the psychology, like stuff we've talked about before. But I'm the same. And look, that ties into it. I wanted to wrap up the cup stuff with like best and worst FA Cup memories, because this is the thing, and it is something that makes me sad actually about that, you know. And we can take the piss out of him and laugh at him and that, but it's something I think about for the wider game and the Super League stuff. And I think a wider point that people don't think about is the competition the game is in isn't just like between the TV companies and the Premier League against the lower divisions and all that. You're competing for kids' attention.
Yeah.
Now, and the reality is when we were little kids, there wasn't that much to compete for our attention. So to watch footy was like, fucking hell. And you got to watch any footy, you were like made up. But now those little kids get to go, well, I'd rather watch Messi. And they get to watch the well better players. And I know Messi's an old example now because he's coming to the end of his career. But I do think it, like, the sad thing for that thing is some of my favourite footy memories are from the FA Cup. From big FA Cup games.
Yeah.
And as you say, some of them not even like Liverpool related, but mainly Liverpool related. And my worst one, I think I've mentioned this on the show before, was going to the 96 final. So there's a couple of my mad dad stories in this, but we went down to the 96 Cup final against United with 2 Man United fans. If I told you this story. So we went in a car, and like we had mates from Manchester and they were Man United fans. So it was me and my dad.
With them in the car?
Yeah. So but think of this, mate, right? Think of this. So in the front of the car is me dad driving and the dad who's the Man United fan in the passenger seat. And behind each of the dads was their sons. So on my dad's side of the car and my side of the car, we had Liverpool scarves out the car. And on the other fella's side of the car, they had Man United scarves.
That must have looked wild.
So we were driving down the motorway, and you'd like overtake someone.
You were definitely the only people doing that.
I reckon the single only car on the fucking whole road. I remember even as a kid thinking,
100,000
this is not comfortable.
There's only you who are doing that.
And I was thinking, this isn't right, Joe. I don't like this. You'd overtake a car on the motorway, and it'd be a Liverpool, full of Liverpool fans, and they'd be like, 2 fingers and booing you and that. And then 10 minutes later, you'd get stuck in traffic, and they'd come around the other side of the car. And you see, I remember their faces being like, looking at you like, what the fuck are you doing? And they were looking at me dad as if to say, this is child abuse. You shouldn't be doing this.
Scarf with wheels.
yeah. Like a half and half scarf on steroids.
That's wild,
isn't
mate.
it mad?
Yeah.
And then what made it worse
you definitely
was...
haven't told me that before.
Haven't I? But I do remember this vividly, and this is a point about like football generally, because they were boss at the time. Obviously United went in the middle of their Ferguson era. I remember we stood outside the ground to watch the coaches come in, and the dad, his name was Billy, the Man United fan. He went to me, "Yous have already lost." And I went, "Why?" And he went, look at the faces of the United players compared to the faces of the Liverpool players. And all the United players were all like relaxed, laughing, joking. Just, you could tell they were just taking the day in their stride. And the Liverpool players all look fucking petrified. They all look like they were like they had the weight of the world on their shoulders. And then, look, as the game panned out, that game could have gone either way, and we lost 1-0, and it was a fucking... Still drives me mad that Rob Jones doesn't handball that on the line. He was my hero at the time. Like, just catch it, Rob. Do you know what I mean? Give David James a chance to save the penalty at the end. But yeah, that was just that was my worst. Yeah,
it was horrible. I didn't go, but I was at university then, and I watched it in Sheffield, and I watched it. You know, one of the lads I knocked around with was like from Southend ways, but supported Man United. So obviously I gave him quite a lot of stick for that. Although he always insisted there was some family connection, if I remember rightly. But yeah, we'd had a bet on it and all that. And he did the full look. I would have done it the other way around, but he did the full hit of, like getting a cigar when they'd won and all that kind of stuff. And I was just like, I've got to get off here. And it was horrible. There's no two ways about it. It's horrible to lose a final, isn't it? Let's be honest. In general, do you know what I mean? Like, things get lost. Like, I've been watching bits and bobs of LFC TV recently. Like, I watched there's a Boss documentary about the double in '86, and I watched that the other night. Really good. I just never got. I knew it existed, that documentary, and I've actually got it on DVD somewhere. And I just never ever got round to watching it, and it was really good. And I enjoyed that. But also there was like a compilation of all Daniel Sturridge's goals for Liverpool. And you know, there's that one in Switzerland, in Basel for the Europa League final. And it's like, it's such a great goal, but we lost. So
no one's lost.
Yeah, we're all a bit sad about that, aren't we?
Yeah, but then Joe, on the flip side of that, because I don't really remember I was 6 for the 86 final, so other than watching them on the clips on telly over the years, I don't remember them live. But so the ones that stick in my head are the Michael Owen final. Which when you think of the reverse memory of the United one, like I just remember us getting absolutely battered that day. Yeah. And a bit like the cup game of the weekend, you're watching an amazing Arsenal team just take you to pieces, and you're still in the game. Stefan Ancho's handball on the line, Joe just about VAR and big decisions, just brilliant. And then the goals. And again, I've told you this, another mad dad memory. I went to that one with my dad as well. That was in Cardiff, wasn't it? And we went for a meal afterwards before we headed home. And we ended up in this restaurant. And Joe, as a kid, you just got to have a sense. Just remember being like, this is weird. Why are we in a restaurant full of Arsenal fans? And there was Arsenal fans on the table next to us. And my dad started talking to them and just went to them like, well, never mind, better luck next year. And when you well. Yeah. So you're thinking, Dad, we're going to get our heads panned in here. Like, can we not talk to the team that's just got beat in the cup final? And then obviously there was the Gerrard one, which is...
Yeah, I was at both of them. Cardiff was just so good for finals. I mean, compared to Wembley, you know, Wembley's obviously got the tradition and all the rest of it. Although obviously we lost a bit of that with the Twin Towers disappearing, etc. But Cardiff was great. It was fantastic, and you know, like the ground is like right in the city, isn't it? And you know, like it's by pubs, and the pubs are sound. You know, like the pubs around Wembley, let's be honest, aren't great. It was always
just shit, wasn't it? Just in the middle of nowhere, not welcoming. It was. I always got the feeling when you went to Wembley, they were annoyed that there was crowds of people coming. You're like, you know, there's a massive stadium just there.
Yeah. Whereas Cardiff was great. Really enjoyed it, and it was great for that final, obviously, because it was proper smash and grab, obviously, wasn't it? And Liverpool looked absolutely goosed. It was a dead hot day. I can actually remember, like, you know, I wasn't like with me mates because we'd ended up having to get like tickets in different bits of the ground or whatever. And I remember just some like, you know, I was obviously like a much younger lad then, and there was some woman who just said to me like, was just looking at my face, I think, and I was like gutted that we were going to like, you know, that, you know, it's not happening for us, and she's going, we're going to win this, you know, and I was just like, wish I had your optimism based on what I'm watching here, like. And then Michael Owen, and I had a picture from that final on my wall in my living room for years, you know, with Owen celebrating right up to the camera and all the rest of them all like around.
Yeah,
them.
we've talked about that in the past, I think. That's a boss picture.
It's a great picture, yeah. I mean, you know, unbelievable as finishes in that final, weren't they? And like I remember doing the, you know, the V's had an Arsenal coach when you know, they were all getting off with sad faces, like, and we're all bouncing around Cardiff, like, and yeah, lovely that. No better way to win a final than that, really, is there?
Well, and do you know what? It just shows you as well, again, touching on the game from yesterday as we record this, I'll just have him with a boss striker, just changes everything, doesn't it? One lad who can just take two little chances. I mean, the winner's unbelievable when you look back, isn't it? In a cup final, on his left foot.
Right in the corner.
Against an amazing team, but against the top international goalkeeper, right in the corner, couldn't get to it. I love those goals, doing the goalie's full stretch and still can't reach it.
Yeah.
And you're like, fucking hell. And the fact that it always adds to it, where he scores and then it's right in front of the Liverpool end. So that just adds to the extra bit to it, doesn't it? It's like the Salah goal in the against City in the Champions League.
Yeah, that was there for that as well. Yeah, that was unbelievable. Absolutely went off, and he did his little celebration, didn't he? And yeah. You know, that was the Champions League, obviously. But yeah, there's been loads of, you know, magical moments in the FA Cup, and that's the thing. You know, we have the yearly conversation about, is it any good? Has it gone? Is it not what it once was? And then by the time you get to the final, especially if you're in it, like, you're buzzing, and like, you know, if you win it, Like, there isn't, I've said this so many times, I'll say it forever. There isn't a bad time or a bad trophy to see wrapped up in red ribbons and being paraded around this city. There's always a kid that's the first time for. And, it's always special. League Cup, FA Cup, UEFA Cup, Europa League, whatever. You can say it doesn't matter until it does matter. And it matters when it's there in your captain's hands on the top of an open top bus. It's that's magical.
Well, I think we might have mentioned this before, but I did love this when Wigan won it the other year and got relegated in the same season. And I think some people were expecting Dave Whelan, the owner, to be devastated, but he's old school. And he was fucking made
won
up.
The FA Cup.
Won the FA Cup. Anything could have happened. We could have won the FA Cup and then you closed the club down. I won the FA Cup. And he was just delighted with that.
That's how it should be, isn't it?
But that's it, isn't it? You've won that trophy. They can never take that off you. You've got that day out. It was funny. It's even funny, watching the commentators and they were joking about it. And even Shearer, because Lineker always takes the piss out of Shearer that he never
for not winning
won it. And obviously Danny Murphy's sitting in the studio and Martin Keown. I mean, that's going back to the point we were talking before. I was watching it thinking, you just don't get that much opportunity to do Premier League or top level football live. This is terrestrial stuff and this is your choice of panel. And then after the game, it just the game I was like, I'll cook dinner while I'm watching the post-match stuff, watch the manager's interviews and all that. 10 minutes after the game had finished, it was like, we're done now. We're going to put Songs of Praise on or whatever was on next.
Yeah, that's because you're used to that massive analysis for about an hour and a half after the game.
I know, but there's a
never going to do that.
But there's a middle ground, isn't there? There's a middle ground. Surely wait until you've had the two managers interviewed till you've finished the programme.
Again, that's being programmed by Sky, that though, I think. I don't think it's realistic to expect there to be a dead long programme afterwards.
Yeah.
Because it's terrestrial telly.
Yeah.
And they've got a license fee and all that.
Yeah.
All your God Squad and that are I wear Songs of Praise.
Yeah, no, I get that. Yeah, I get that. Well, I think that'll do us because we've been jabbering.
Could you jabber? One big FA Cup chat.
One big FA Cup chat. We didn't even get to the snow and that, so we'll have to talk about that on the Patreon. So if you're not on the Patreon, if you're not subscribing yet, you're missing out.
Yeah, tune in for snow chat.
There'll be more stuff than snow chat. What a sales pitch that is. If you want to come and hear me and Gareth Roberts talk about the snow.
If you think snow's boss, watch the Patreon this week.
Oh, just a boss salesman. But if you are interested in watching us talking about other shit, £1 a week to support everything we do, keep it alive, get the extra content. It's the perfect podcast package. It's easy for me to say. Show on a Monday, Wednesday and a Friday to get you through the week. There's a free trial. People have been asking us to talk about Joey Barton, and we said this a couple of weeks ago. We've already done a whole Patreon show about him being a football knobhead, and he's just upped the game since then. So maybe we'll do a follow-up at some point. But if you want to hear us talk about things like that, you can go to a free trial now. Links are below the show on YouTube or on whatever podcast app you're listening on. You can listen for 7 days. There are over 30 shows on there now, well over 30 shows. You can listen to as many as you want in that time. And if you don't want to carry on after the trial, you can just fuck it off, but give it a go, see what you think. And for those of you who are already subscribers, we'll see you over there. We'll see you later in the week on Friday. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for your support as ever. See you next week.
Love you.